Robert's Rules of Orders. Anybody can give me any suggestions, but we'll call the meeting to order. It's 4:03. First order of business is approval of the minutes. Everyone should have gotten a copy of the minutes. So I'll first entertain a motion to approve the minutes as is.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
we need to do a roll call first.
Oh, okay. We'll do a roll call then. Calvin Bryant,
I'm on here.
Bishop Barlow,
I'm on here. Here.
Ms. Moore,
Present.
Joyce,
Present.
Stefan Nellums,
Present.
Pearl Sims,
Present.
and then I do not see on my list of who's in attendance, I do not see either Ashford or King, but if they show up, we'll add them as if they attend. Okay. At
John,
this point then,
question.
yes, ma'am.
Did we have notice provided to the councilmanic representatives? Were they notified about this meeting? Did they know?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, they were.
Thank you.
They received an email this morning, plus they had all received emails periodically from me since the last meeting. So I feel confident that everyone, I've got a Rose Park Committee mailing address that includes all of the board members as well as the 4 council persons. So whenever I send an email out, I hit that and everybody gets the same thing. So yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I make a motion to accept the minutes from our last meeting.
Is there a second?
Calvin Barlow, second.
Thank you. Does anyone have any changes to the meeting or to the minutes that they reviewed? If not, I'll call for a vote of those in favor of approving. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? That case, and next time I'll do it, I'll go down the roll call, which I should have done that time. But in this case, we have a unanimous approval. Okay, the next thing is confirm email addresses. I just got King's number and I need, Helen, yours is the only one I don't have. Would you mind emailing me that? And
My phone number is it my
Yeah,
phone number?
Whatever phone number you want to have as your phone number for this.
Certainly.
If you'll just email that to me, then I'll add this to our, if you look at your agenda, I've got that, everyone's email address and telephone number on the front of that. So that way everybody will get that for every meeting in case anyone needs to reach out to anyone.
Thank you.
Okay, then, thank you, ma'am. And then the next order of business is review and discussion and adoption of the bylaws, which I'm going to turn this over now to Pearl.
I think all of you probably by now gotten several copies of the bylaw, and most of these, actually Berkeley did a big piece of work on this, and I did too. I think there was a great question raised at our last meeting about what truly is the purpose of this and what should this group be called. And so I think we need to make adjustments to those. By law and within the legislation itself, the bill, we actually are called an advisory committee, and I thought Joyce made a good point there that we ought to stay true to the legislation. I also think the purpose, this was a restatement between what Berkeley and I worked on, but I really thought about what Joyce had said, and I think we ought to go back to what is actually written in the purpose by law. And I sent y'all, last email you should have gotten about an hour ago was I just realized that some people might not actually have that bill with them. So I sent that email, and I'll read that to you real quickly because this is exactly what it says in the bill, is that the batting facility represents a new partnership between Metro Schools, Belmont, and the surrounding community partners. The facility will work synergistically with the existing partnership between Metro Parks and Belmont for the improvements at Rose Park, to facilitate the efficient implementation of the school's partnership and to ensure the new and continued delivery of the benefits both partnerships to all parties. Metro Parks and Metro Schools shall convene an advisory group representing a broad cross-section of Edge Hill community perspectives. This group will meet quarterly to review all aspects of the partnerships between Belmont and Metro Schools and Metro Parks to ensure that benefits to all parties are being realized. I think we ought to just cut and paste that straight from the legislation into the purpose. And therefore, there's no doubt about what we really are about. And we don't have to stretch it or try to include stuff that other people might suggest we do. So I guess I think that's the only thing. Other than that, in the actual bylaws, I was a little surprised to find out we actually are 3 years. I thought it was 2 years, but according to the legislation, it is 3 years. We do have a quorum. Of course, we know about that. It said that people, if they miss more than 50% of the meetings, they will not be allowed to stay on this. Proxy voting are not allowed. And of course, as long as we have COVID, we'll be doing virtual voting, which should be by roll call every time, which is a part of just what the state requires of us to have virtually.
I had a question, and it didn't occur to me until today, right before the meeting, when I was trying to get on here. Because we had an extra meeting last time, and so if we meet quarterly,
yeah,
and we say we had an extra meeting that we decided that we would have ourselves, is that how that you just read, Pearl, about the percent of the meetings when the people, I guess I'm sensitive to it because so many of us are in meetings all day long, and I want to make sure that everybody, because I know terms end eventually, and if we promise people 4 quarterly meetings, 4 meetings, so every quarter, I'm not saying that we don't have to meet more, but if a person who has planned to meet 4 times, I mean, suppose you have a mom who has to take care of kids and blah, 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 then I don't want to penalize people for not coming to an extra meeting. That's just my feeling on it. I don't know what other people think.
That's a good point, Joyce. And I think my position would be, and Pearl can tell me if I'm correct, whether we can even have this, the 50% of the meetings would be, per the bylaws, we're to meet on the 4th Monday of the 3rd month. So far, since we've been in existence, we've met, is this our 2nd or 3rd?
This is our
3rd meeting. And I am actually going to be proposing that while we would be due to have our next meeting in March, that this would be our meeting for this quarter, and that our next meeting would occur on what was intended to be the scheduled, which is June 26. I've got it on my notes here somewhere, but yeah, so yes, I would say that the fact that we might have additional meetings, that would not come into play with the 50% of the meetings. As long as someone attends 2 meetings per year, I would say they were in compliance with that requirement. Would everyone agree?
I don't agree, John, but
you don't agree.
That would be correct.
I think
so. You think every meeting should be counted as part of the meetings?
I think every called meeting, that we should stay on the date so we don't constantly get off, even though that means this next time will be just in a month. And this has been because of founding, and we weren't even under the bylaws or really even operating legally until we have bylaws. So we were trying to get to bylaws. But if people can come to call meetings and they don't know about them, then I think they should just be forgiven. I mean, come if you can, and if you can't, it's not a required meeting. The 4 are required and go into the 50%.
Okay, that's what I was saying.
Oh, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
You and I were saying the same thing. I just said it differently.
Okay.
So we're in the same. Okay.
Okay, yeah.
Now let me ask you though, real
I don't want to
quickly.
excuse people if they should plan to be here every quarter.
Absolutely.
But the extra meetings, you know,
Yeah, questionable,
going
yeah.
forward, some people, I said a mother, but it could be a dad, a single dad in the neighborhood, and you have to pay somebody to keep your kids up. I want the committee to be open to everybody in this neighborhood.
Thank you.
Pearl, are you saying you think we do need to meet in March?
Yes, because we'll be constantly off if we don't. So we're going to have one meeting sooner or later to catch up to the right date in this, in the plan, so in the bylaws.
Okay.
And otherwise, we'll always, I mean, if we won't, we might as well change it to the 6th meeting, you know, if you scoot one back, you're going to scoot them all back.
Well, that's what I'm saying. We don't need to do anything back. We're just going to count this meeting as our March meeting. And then our next meeting would occur at the end of the next quarter.
I'm hesitant to do that until we can, and this is just speaking from a neighborhood's perspective, is we haven't yet itemized or figured out how we're going to get the work that is legislated to us done. And so it'll be another until June, until the neighborhood kind of knows what to expect of this committee and whether or not they're invited and all that kind of good stuff. So I just think that's a long way off to keep people that may need to get to us or want to get to us waiting on just the process itself. So I'd like to see us get this role of responsibilities that are legislated to us really in place. And then just what we'll do is we'll just have one more meeting again, but we're in the formation stages, and this isn't unusual for committees or commissions.
Okay, that's fine. We'll make that as a proposal then. Does anyone have any other feedback for the bylaws?
Do we need to take a vote on that or ask for an acceptance of what? How should that be handled?
I think I'll ask Pearl for a motion clarifying what she was saying about the rewriting of the purpose, and then we'll go from there.
I move that we accept the bylaws as written with 2 amendments. One is that we call the group a Rose Park Advisory Committee in keeping with our legislation. And the second is that we substitute the purpose statement for that is written in the bill number 2019-11.
Is there a second?
I have a question.
I'm mute. Does it say advisory committee or advisory group?
The law says advisory committee. I don't know why this got written as a group. I think it was I think everybody was,
okay, here it is. It says, continue to deliver benefits of both partnerships. All parties shall convene an advisory group representing a broad cross-section of Edge Hill community perspectives. I don't know if that matters. Trying to figure out where.
The amended copy says advisory group.
It says the advisory
group
shall designate one neighborhood.
I'm looking at the amended copy.
Okay.
The amended copy states advisory group. I'm looking at it.
Okay, good.
okay.
So, but
Okay.
Pearl, your motion is to change anywhere it says group to committee. Is that correct?
Well, I think we have to stay true with the legislation, and in this case, it doesn't really matter. The real only designation has to do with whether it's called a board or commission. Otherwise, the charter lets us call it anything we want to call it. So,
well, let me make a recommendation that we don't call it anything, but stay true to the amended copy, which consistently refers to our committee as advisory group.
I think that's good. We can stay true to the legislation. I like that.
Okay.
And Mr. Chair, I have one thing, because I think that this is not on the group thing, but the last time we had a discussion on the can and shall, how you contact you, I think it was Bishop Barlow that was talking to that. and Pearl, just to make sure we change that. I didn't get a chance to look at the latest thing. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
because I'm still have this old copy.
yeah,
Remember,
okay.
we talked about neighborhood representative shall, but we changed it to can.
Well, the amendment says will, so I don't think I think we have to stay.
Okay. It wasn't me, but if you don't have any to say, I think that was Bishop Barlow that talked about all that last time.
Oh, yeah, okay.
I'm just remembering
Yes, he
the
did.
conversation. But I think somewhere, and I'm trying to figure out, I have so many copies of everything. I'm trying to figure out, because I think I wrote down can. Yeah, here it is.
Yeah,
The neighborhood representatives can communicate with their appointing and not shall, because the language says shall.
Well, the amendment actually does say, and I appreciate the feedback about group because I didn't catch that, but this group will.
Okay, the amendment to the legislation, to the amendment to the bill,
Yeah, this is as amended. Yeah.
where is that? Can you tell us which page that's on, or
Yeah, hold on.
a section number or something like that?
Yeah. Hold on.
I'm trying to figure out where, so I can see. Oh, shit, bill for the public, no, they have advanced, I see it said,
Amendment page 8. This amendment doesn't have any sections on it, so it's on page 3. And what I sent to you guys really is straight out of it. It says the group will meet to review all aspects of the partnerships between Belmont to ensure that all benefits to all parties are realized. And it goes on with a whole lot of list of what we could do. So,
But I think
no,
what
I'm not
Joyce,
talking about that. I'm talking
Joyce,
about.
I think if I may, just real quickly, I think what Joyce is referring to is section 8 under meetings, letter F, communication with council members. What representatives may communicate.
oh, yeah, okay.
Is that the one that you're talking about?
we put may communicate. It says may.
Okay.
Right.
I'm
Yes,
sorry,
yes,
I'm
But there are
not
3
looking at
council
that latest
members
copy.
after each, right? It doesn't say they have to.
It said may.
Yeah, we got that from you, Mr. Barlow.
Sorry, I didn't see the latest copy. I'm sorry.
I thought we were talking about what this advisory committee will do.
Okay.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, if that's the case, then to move us on, I'm going to, Pastor Barlow, did you have any other questions or comments?
No, sir, I'm okay.
Okay, then at this point, if no one else does, did I have a second already?
Well, I'll need to amend my amended, just to take out the word committee and put group in there then. So,
Okay,
so I move that we call this a group in keeping with the legislation, that we substitute the purpose as stated in the bill 2019-11 as amended. And I think everything else that other people suggested is in here.
very good.
Second.
And if that's the case, then I'm going to call for a vote and I will start with Calvin Bryant,
I agree.
Bishop Barlow,
Yay.
Helen Moore,
Yay.
Joyce Searcy,
Yes.
Stevan Nellums.
Yay.
I shouldn't have asked him because he's the same as me, so that one doesn't actually count. Sorry, Steve. Pearl Sims,
Yay.
and then I don't vote, right? Or do I vote?
Yeah.
I do vote. Then I vote yay.
You're listed in the you're listed in substituted.
And I just noticed that Ashford is now with us. And Ashford, did you hear enough to vote on the approval of the bylaws at this point? You're still on mute, if you can hear me.
I heard the tail end of it. I apologize.
Would you mind saying your motion again real quickly, Pearl? Did I lose Pearl?
Let's see.
Pearl, you're
He was
muted.
on mute.
He's muted.
Yeah, I've got it. I move that we change the name of this group to Rose Park Advisory Group in keeping with the legislation. I also suggest that I move that we substitute the purpose statement as written in the draft and substitute it for what's actually written in the legislation.
Very good. And so,
You didn't call on me.
King, I didn't realize you were there too.
Yes.
Sorry
I
about
did.
that. I'm sorry, I didn't see your name there. So now I'm going to ask for King Hollins, your
I
vote,
agree.
and Ashford Hughes, your vote.
This is Ashford Hughes. I vote in support of those two changes that Pearl spoke to.
Very good. In that case, the motion passes, and we will move on to the next item. I will note that for King and for Ashford, we have a 5 o'clock deadline on this meeting, so we're at 4:24 right now. So I'll move on to the next one, which is adopt statement, and the bylaws were very important. So thank you all for your input, and Pearl especially for your hard work on that document. Adopt statement of purpose, which I believe is already in. That's what's in the bylaws, correct, Pearl?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so that's done. And then I also had on there include discussion on King Hollins' purpose email, and I'm trying to find that. And I thought I had it printed out, and for some reason I'm not finding it. King, would you like to speak to what your intent was in regards to that?
Yes, and let me try to pull it up as well. My systems, and I didn't print that. Does anyone else have that they can read?
I have it if you want me to read it.
If you would, Pearl, thank you.
Okay. There's 6 points, and that is to advocate and ensure the public use of Rose Park, to provide and make apparent information on the internet with physical signs on the premises about the rights and privileges that the Nashville public and the Edge Hill community have to park facilities. Number 3, to hold accountable and in compliance all parties signed on to the contractual agreement concerning Rose Park. Number 4, to monitor for and report all contractual violations and hindrances of public use. And I think it says to, and actually make that monitoring report available to council members, Metro Parks, Edge Hill community, and Nashville public, the school board, and any other relevant Metro department or board or commission, to ensure, oversee, and account for all funds, past and present, and to advocate for the priority scheduling for Nashville and Edge Hill communities rather than out of town. And if I can add just real quickly to this, when we get to the charter responsibilities and the tasks that we've been legislated, I think those fit better there than in the purpose.
Okay.
So we can scoot those over, if it's okay with you guys, into that list of, and I could put that under, I think some of those are actually addressed already in our tasks, but others could be added in that line that said others. And we could talk about that when we have our next meeting.
I'm good with that, Pearl.
Are you good with that, King?
Yes.
Okay, very good. Okay, with that being the case, then I will move on to the next item, which is the Code of Ethics. And before we start here, Pearl, and this was one I had your name on too. And I apologize because I've got so many different documents and stuff floating around. Is there a actual document that each of us needs to sign and get returned to, I guess, to you as the secretary for the board, for the committee?
Yes, there's actually, there is a legal form we have to sign that's called Acknowledgement of Ethical Rules for Members of Boards, Agencies, Commissions, and Other Appointed Entities.
Okay, and I'm confident I have a copy of that somewhere, but I'm also confident you have a copy.
I do.
Could I could I ask you then, and tell me if this, I may be oversimplifying it, but is it simple as you mailing it, send it out, email it to everyone, print it, sign it, then scan it and send it back to Pearl. That way everybody is on record as having signed that document.
And I
Does
know
that work?
Bert is working on some kind of folder for us on Metro government under Parks, I think. And John, I think it's on, I don't know where she's going to end up housing it, but I think Parks. And I can put this in the folder. So if everybody, I'll send this to before when we end the meeting, and then if everybody will just sign it, like John said, and get it back to me, I'll keep it in my notebook here. By the bylaws legally, I do have a notebook. Y'all can see it, and I'll keep those and then get them on to Berkeley.
That's perfect.
I am on the call. I just came in some funny way, so I'm not showing up. This is Berkeley.
Oh, okay. Hi, Berkeley.
Hello, sorry I'm late.
That's
Anyone
okay.
do electronic signing?
Yeah, I can send it to you so you can do electronic signing. Either way, if you don't have electronic signing under email, I'll send it back scanned. So I can do it both ways.
Okay,
I'll print it out here and just keep it on file. So
very good. Then we'll move on to the next. In Berkeley, perfect timing. The question you were supposed to find out what you could as far as document maintenance and storage. Do you have any report for us today?
Yeah, I want to call it an update because I don't think I'm done with this. So I talked to John Cooper, who is the legal counsel for the council. And I'm not sure I described what this group is well enough. And his response was, quote, since they're not an official Metro entity, then he wasn't sure where on Metro's website we would house it. So I think I need to follow up with him and explain again how this group was formed and confirm that that's his final word. Because I think having this under Parks is the best place. In the interim, I can create a Google Doc, which was his suggestion. But I think since we were created by legislation, that does make us a Metro entity. But I haven't gotten the final word on that.
Well, in the interim, then would it suffice to have Pearl keep her folder as the secretary and maintain all documents in that folder?
As a physical copy, I think having an electronic place as well.
Right. But until that location is identified, we'll just move forward with Pearl being the keeper of all things important.
And I think with a copy to you two right now, because since you're at Parks and you represent one of the government entities, it's right now everything is happening to so many. I'm so sorry because my brain, 3 people I knew that just passed from COVID. So if you just have, I think it needs to be in more than one place. That's what I'm saying. I think that if you have a copy, Pearl will give you a copy of everything. So if anything happens to one of us, it's in another place.
absolutely.
That's fine. I'll be happy to keep a copy of everything that Pearl has. I've actually got a folder full of stuff right now. It's just I'm not nearly as organized as Pearl is, so it scares me a little bit to try.
It's supposed to be.
So, anyway, okay. So Berkeley, I take it that's the end of your report?
Now,
Berkeley.
now more definitive.
Yeah, Berkeley, I know that the Greenway Advisory Group that advises the Greenway, whatever part of the council that is, they have a place to put theirs. I'm sorry?
Yeah, and I mean there's the Greenways Commission.
Yeah.
You're talking about Greenways for Nashville.
Yeah.
And that, yeah, I'll check with I'll check with her director and see how she's done that. That's a good one.
Because they wanted it available to all of Nashville, and so I know they worked through that somehow. And I do think that because one of our real goals here is to communicate to multiple neighborhoods, we need to have it electronic. So.
I agree, and I think the Google Doc is too unofficial.
Yeah, me too.
I'll keep going on that one.
Okay. Then we'll now move on to discuss committee responsibilities, a document that Pearl put together, and I know she was going to give kind of a explanation, and I'll turn it over to you, Pearl.
And I'm sorry, you guys, that I'm hogging the show tonight, but some of this is just stuff that the president and secretary have to put together for us to be legal and really acting with all due processes in place. And this should be the last time that you guys need to talk all from now on. So these are actually enumerated by what's in the legislation. So you should have in front of you the Rose Park, now it's called officially the advisory group, and what our work is defined in the legislation. These are the 10 tasks that we are charged with. And I think that like, for example, when I talked to John about this earlier, both Belmont and the parks have an annually required, but none of the rest of us, to be honest, I've never seen one, although I know it's out there. And I think some of us just need explanations of what they are, how we do it. So it might not be a big piece of work. It's more of just educating the rest of us. And when the neighborhood starts asking about it, we know where to go to look for it. Also, I'm concerned that there be some type of, maybe not quarterly, but midpoint checking to make sure that something's not gone askew and we don't know about it till the very end. And so there has to be some type, really good monitoring tasks are usually have a midpoint check, sometimes quarterly. That's probably too much to put on people who are already crazy busy. But so these are the tasks this is lifted straight out of the legislation. And I think what we ought to do is this be our next item, because it's going to take a good conversation, at least an hour or so, for us to make sure we're all saying the same thing, understand the same thing, and each of us are taking some responsibility for making sure this gets done. My greatest concern in not doing something like this is most of us have worked on advisory groups that aren't worth the salt. I mean, there's you advise whom and where and how. And if somebody were to say to me, Pearl, what bottom line is this group about? I would say really getting good data out of which to make really good decisions and future decisions. And we don't have those in a way that just a regular member of this neighborhood or of our city can actually go to them or understand them or somehow contribute to them. So I think that's it. I just think there's actions needed to fulfill the legislative responsibilities of this committee, and that we need to make sure we're all understanding this, and all of us working on it somehow or the other.
And I think what Pearl and I had discussed is kind of the two of us going over it rather than everybody together initially, and then we'll send some information out with maybe a little bit more explanation and suggestions and kind of cleaning it up a little bit. And like I said, add King's suggestions where they are applicable in that document as well. And then the next meeting, we can iron it out and look at who can take responsibility for different, to kind of share the responsibilities around to the different committee members. That sound good? Okay.
And John, if we may, I really, really would love to have feedback. I know, and so John, I can get that feedback to you if on anything that needs clarifying or any additions beside King's or any concerns about any of these. If we could just get feedback before we meet the next time, that would help us all get there faster.
Absolutely. And I will say this, I've gotten feedback from several folks at any point that anything comes up, both in my role as a member of the Parks Department that oversees the sports fields part of Rose Park, and as in my role as chairperson or co-chairperson on this committee, anytime you have any suggestions, concerns, comments at all, please don't hesitate to copy me, because what I can do then is either address it and or share it with the whole I want to call it a committee, advisory group. And I'll try and say that right as we go forward here. Okay. Anybody have anything else to add to this section? If not, I'll move on to the next point. because I don't believe there's any motion that's required at that point. The next item number 8 was an update on facility schedule being more accessible. Since our last meeting, I reached out to Metro ITS, the event booking company that Belmont pays to provide the booking schedule, or the software package that we use currently to book and reserve the fields at Rose Park. And then I've also spoken with Steve Barrick from Belmont, and with Jason Rogers from Belmont. So basically, in summation of what I have found out, Metro currently is in the process of redoing their webpage. So the first answer, as far as, well, let me start over again. The whole process right now, the system that works, event booking can send the data to and I'm not an IT guy, so I may not say this exactly right, but I'll say it in layman's terms. They can send the data to a calendar, and then that calendar needs to be created, and then that calendar can be posted on whatever website we want it posted. So event booking can send the data, but somebody has to create the calendar. Once the calendar is created, it can be posted on any website, whether it's the Rose Park Metro Parks website or any other website, any community website, doesn't matter. But at this point, we can't do that with the scheduling package that we have currently. Metro ITS has informed me that it will be at least a year before they're at a point where they will be entertaining any new development on this new website that Metro is in the process of adapting right now. So there are some concerns as to whether or not that's even realistic that we can do that. We are continuing to explore options to do it in a more timely fashion and to figure out who's going to be responsible, because there's going to be an expense involved with it. So at this point, we're still in the process of gathering information, and I guess that's about all I can tell you at this point. Does anyone have any questions that maybe I tried to explain it, but maybe I didn't do it well enough?
Well, I'll just say, I mean, from the council perspective, I will continue to push for this, because I mean, the scheduling needs to be updated for all of parks, and I think this, can be the thing that leads for it. So I don't know that I can speed it up, but I can continue to keep it on the front burner to ensure that it does happen. Excellent.
And again, there's also going to be a question of funding, which,
right,
as a council person, you have some say in that as well.
Yeah.
So, okay. So that's an answer there. I will next move on to the miscellaneous topics of discussion. The first one listed is the concession stand discussion. And again, I had another discussion with Jason Rogers from Belmont. As you may or may, I think most of you realize, what is in the agreement, the legal document that creates this agreement between Belmont and Metro government, was that a concession stand was going to be built that had access for both the public and for a vendor of Belmont's choice to operate in that facility. As it stands right now, what in the design process, they did not create that type of a facility. So one of the things that I saw, and Pearl, you did a very good job in the minutes, because I guess I didn't even pick up clear enough when we were having the conversation last time. If we can develop a procedure utilizing the existing concession stand and require the current concessionaire that operates under Belmont to move all of their stuff back into the storage area, And if somebody wants to utilize the concession stand, they would simply have access to the concession stand with everything for the other concessionaire being secured back in a locked area. The problem we have is we don't have a area for anyone else to store anything, but based on the input that I've received from you all, it sounded like you were suggesting multiple groups operating that concession stand. Is that an accurate assessment, or does somebody have any other input in that regards?
I think that's accurate, John. That's because of the nature of the people in the neighborhood and the activities may make it difficult to just have one concessionaire. So we need to have the flexibility to have multiples if needed.
If that's
That
the
was my
case,
question. That was my
Okay.
question, King. I am in agreement with King because of the nature of the community. You may have more than one individual wanting to be a concessionaire.
if that's the case, and we don't have to worry about a storage area, because the only reason you have a storage area is if someone were going to do it long term. It is feasible that we could use the existing facility, require the existing concessionaire to, when she is not operating it, to move all of her stuff back and secure it in the closet behind it. And then whatever group wanted to use it would have access to the concession stand and the counter space and what was out there. So, and what I will do, if everybody's in accordance, if everybody agrees with this, I'll work with my sports superintendent who oversees all of our concessions agreements and try and draft a procedure for utilization of that concession stand.
John, can I mention something?
Certainly.
It may be that on occasion we may have someone who wants an extended period of time. So you're saying that that's not going to be possible. Is there a place inside the building or some other place, or someone want to do a season or something more?
Well, King, that's where it becomes problematic. I think the reason they designed it the way they did initially, and the way it would work, and if you've been in there, it's a long, skinny room that you enter from the side, and as you come in, there's a door to the right, and there's a storage area. And then within that storage area, there's another storage area behind it. But that storage area has no access other than from the closet itself.
I see.
So if you cut a hole in the wall to create access to both storage areas and closed off that door, the existing door between the two of them, you could create that, but then the problem is all of the counter space on the back where you would set your nacho machine or your popcorn machine or anything like that, it goes away. So suddenly you have a concession stand with no counter space. That's a problem. So I think that's why what they talked about and what they created were two different things. What they created was functional, but not specifically in compliance with the agreement. So the way it could be in compliance is as long as the concessionaire had access to the storage areas and anyone that came in understood that they would be, bringing their stuff in for that day and then taking their stuff back out at the end of the day, that could be usable. Otherwise, I have fear that we're going to create a situation where basically nobody's going to want to use it, because with no counter space, we'll just have a big empty space there forever. So, and we don't need to answer that now, but I hope I've painted a clear enough picture. And if anyone would like to come by there or meet me there, and I'll be happy to walk through and show it to them, that might help clarify what it actually looks like. And I'm also open to anybody who has any other suggestions. As it is right now, I'm concerned about making it functional If we make it where there's two separate storage areas, I think the concession stand becomes much less functional because of a lack of counter space.
John, may I say something?
Absolutely.
I did go up there and look at it, and there is a storage room that's right now being used by the custodians. And I was shown around by someone from Belmont. And I do think that not having a concession stand for the neighborhood is out of compliance with the original lease. So I think this needs a much more thoughtful conversation than time allows tonight. And I'm afraid for us to vote on anything because it might actually nullify what we're trying to solve.
No, I'm not looking for any kind of vote on this thing. I'm looking for a long-term solution. You say there's a custodial closet in the concession stand?
Yes, I actually took pictures of it. Yep. Because I thought there was going to be only one. And she showed me two. She said, right now the custodians are using it. And I said, well, I think the original intent was the neighborhood was supposed to use this. And she was very professional and chose not to talk with me about it. So I think I think there's more solutions than we can see right now.
Sure.
What solution? One group.
Joyce, you're breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now? I don't know. Can you hear me? Oh,
Yes.
okay.
Yes.
I'm sorry. I was saying that if we found, I don't think Belmont worries about who you use, just somebody good, and it could serve all groups, and maybe develop, maybe Metro Parks could put them under contract or something like that. You know.
Well,
and to serve all of the groups. I know that when I attended one of the neighborhood meetings, I'm trying to remember, was it I.W. Gurnett or was it the Edge Hill apartments, where they wanted to use it, they wanted to do the concession as fundraising for the neighborhood, those neighborhood groups. So, but I think that would be on the Metro Parks to do that. So
all I can tell you is I have tried to get concessionaires at different places and I've had no luck at all. So the fact that Belmont has anybody is great. And if the neighborhood has somebody, I'll be glad to permit anybody that comes forward. Currently, there's no one that's come forward.
Standard, though, you know.
It's what? Say that?
I said, I don't know how Metro Parks develop set standards.
Well, it's all based on the health department. That's the problem.
Okay.
It's the health department sets the standards and the liability requirements. That's where it becomes more cumbersome for a lot of people than it's worth their time and effort. So we are now at 4:51, so I don't want to waste any more time at this point. Is there anything in those other miscellaneous topics that anyone would like to address in today's meeting?
I just had one other thing, and John, you asked me to take it up, and it's just timely. You all know that the construction is going on, and I posted on the belmont.edu/community page. There's construction there, and I usually put down all of the construction activities, you know, that Belmont is doing. And so you'll see on that construction page, you'll see a rendering of the facility, and it says that it's scheduled for completion in June. And then one other thing is that the company who's doing the construction will also be using subcontractors. That's what they're having to do at this next page. And so we wanted to try to be proactive about parking. And so Marlo at the park has talked about using 8 spaces at the community center for people to use. And then there are 19 spaces in a lot at the corner of 9th and Olympic. And I think that belongs to Rose Park Middle School. And so they have permission to use that. So that's only the back spaces that are closest to the fire station there. And if the construction needs any more space, they'll have to park in the Olympic lot. But hopefully there won't be a need for that. But you know what happens if you've ever dealt with construction people, because I'm looking at it in my backyard. You have to, that contractor has to make sure to tell the subcontractors. And so when the new crew comes, then they have to make sure they get that word out, you know, to that new group of subcontractors. So that's just the update on that. And I would invite you all to, you know, go to the page to look at the rendering.
And I'd like to thank you for your proactive efforts on that, because parking, that always becomes an issue. And I think you made it very clear with them. And while there may be some snags, I think it'll be much smoother because of your efforts. So thank you. Does anyone else have anything to cover under miscellaneous topics?
Yes, John, I have one item.
Yes, sir.
We had discussed in the last meeting about the website at Belmont that still says Rose Park is created by Belmont in 2011. And this information is not correct.
Go to the website and look at what I rewrote, okay?
You written that recently? Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, I appreciate that. I will certainly look at it.
Thank you, Joyce.
Thanks.
Anything else at this point? Any new business?
John, if I can just jump in to go back to the concession stand one more time, because I appreciate everyone trying to look for creative short-term and long-term solutions. And it does seem like the suggestion to have the hired concessionaire be willing to move their stuff out of the way would at least give us the opportunity to have the, you know, if there's a community group that wants to do a one-off, we know that that's a possibility next week because that suggestion has been made, and that may be a good way to get a better feel for what the long-term needs would be. So I would just encourage us to, I mean, in the short run, to pursue that suggestion, keeping in mind that there may be a different long-term solution, just that we can learn from what happens in the short run. So I appreciate that suggestion being made.
Pearl, can you forward me a picture of that custodial stuff, and then I'll send it over and see, can they move that?
And actually, Joyce, I'll make a point to go by there so that Pearl doesn't have to. And I'll get that because I want to look at it again anyway.
I appreciate that, John. Yeah. I think we could, because the legislation does say there could be other tasks, let's add that onto our responsibilities, and so that we can get somebody really focusing on it and a finished date by when, so that we won't have this conversation every time we come. I think there's lots of good solutions possible, but I can add that as number 11 on our responsibilities we talk about next time. Is that okay?
You know, and some of this would be on the metro parks, you know, as part of their responsibilities for administration. Yeah. So yeah, we wouldn't have to get down in the weeds of it.
No, and I'm gonna discuss that with my staff here about how we can set something up and have a procedure set up in place in the event somebody does. But if anyone on this committee or on this group has someone approach them interested in operating that concession stand, please refer them to me and I will do my very best to accommodate them. Okay, any other new business?
John, I had one question, so we'll have to deal with it. That was number 12. If anyone can answer, what was causing the perception of the park not being available for the neighborhood? Any quick questions? We'll have to deal with this again.
I'm not
changing the perception. Was it due to the fact something on a well site? What was the perception? Number 12, changing the perception that the park does not belong to the neighborhood.
Oh, you're talking about the minutes from last meeting.
Yeah, minutes,
I'm sorry. Yeah, that was, actually, that was mine. That came from a meeting that I had out at the park with King and with Avi and with some of my staff, and I think there were a couple of other folks that were there. And one of the things that stuck out to me after our conversation, and I think it was a very good conversation, was a misperception, because what they were expressing to me was something that I hadn't, in some cases, stuff I hadn't thought about. And so I think part of our goal is to try to gather information from the community as to what is their perception, because a perception is a person's reality, and the way you change it is you give them new information, or you make a change to what's being done so that their perception changes. So if there is an issue with how things are being run or done on that piece of property, that's the effort, is to try and change the perception, primarily that, in this case, that piece of property belongs to Belmont. That piece of property does not belong to Belmont. Belmont spent an incredible amount of money developing it, but it belongs to Metro Parks, to Metro government, and to the community. And as that's the thing that I want to try and change, that particular perception, is that is not Belmont's facility. It is their home location for their college athletic teams, but it is not their facility. And so that's going to be, I think, a goal of this, or should be a goal of this, and maybe listed on the list of things we're going to try to accomplish, is how do we change the perception that is, and like King was mentioning, there was a simple statement on the Belmont website that was affecting the perception, and Joyce simply rewrote it, and hopefully now that perception is gone, or that what was creating that perception is gone. So that's, am I making that sound or making sense on what I'm saying there?
Yes, I understand it.
Dude, I didn't write the original. I'll let you know that. I just, after I heard the conversation and King, what you said, I went to the original lease agreement and just put a lot of that information in there. So, and then there was also, it was a long time ago, and I also put current information in there about how to reserve the park, all of that, because you wouldn't believe all the calls and emails I get about, can I reserve the park? And I have to tell people, answer the phone, or either I have to tell people in email, this is how you reserve it, and I have to keep the number handy. That makes it easy for me if they can just click on right there and go to that.
Go to our website. Absolutely.
Right. It gets it off my plate.
That's right. Okay. Anyone else have anything to add?
I have two things, John. This is real quick. In the list of things that we closed out with on our last meeting, I had jotted down signage and also scholarships. And I'm not asking for that to be addressed at this meeting in light of the fact that we both have another meeting to get to, but signage and scholarships. So I want to leave that on the top of our discussion, and to include that in our next meeting.
Yes, ma'am. Anyone else?
Scholarships falls in on Joyce's under Joyce's umbrella.
Anyone else? If that's the case, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. I received that from Joyce. Do I have a second?
Second, Calvin Barlow.
Very good. And I want to thank everyone. And again, I hope if there's any suggestions y'all have for anything that can help these meetings run better, I'm open for all input. So And thank you all for your patience. And with that, I'll adjourn the meeting and look forward to seeing you. And our next meeting will be on, and I don't have the date right in front of me, but it will be the 4th Monday in March. Is 4 o'clock a decent enough time for everybody? We'll shoot for 4 o'clock on.
Somebody with a calendar, give a date, please. Someone with a.
I will actually send out an email tomorrow, Helen. I have to run right now, but I will send an email out tomorrow with that because I'm going to have to contact ITS about getting our WebEx meeting and everything. So I'll do all that stuff tomorrow.
Looks like the 22nd.
Okay. Well, with that, meeting is adjourned and I hope to see you all soon. Stay safe.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.